Hi, this is Caroline from The Happy Sensitive, and I'm here with another episode in the Spiritual Bullshit series. Okay, so in this series, I look at spiritual messages, often channelings, and I pull out certain ideas that I think are problematic, and especially when those ideas are shared and repeated a lot. And I explain why I think they're problematic and why it's best to not take those on board. Okay, so in this particular text, this is just a segment of it. It talks about mastery. Love your life and live it like the masters you are. Don't let anything or anyone divert you from your path of light, from the path of love, and from the longing for perfection. Transform your issues and look for the master within you. There you will find everything. So we've got master, transform, perfection, path of light, path of love, everything. What I don't like about this, and there's a lot of this going around, is this emphasizing that you have to think of yourself as a master, when in reality, it's all a learning curve. Mastery suggests you're in some kind of end state. And it's not as if I jump out of my skin every time I hear the word master. Like sometimes it's perfectly appropriate to use the word mastery or master or whatever. But in this case, especially in combination with the longing for perfection, I've got narcissism, like alarm bells going off. It's like, this is not about learning, and this is not about doing what you can. This is about an ego boost. You are a master. You are longing for perfection. That perfection is attainable. You will reach this state of mastery where everything will be wonderful and full of love and light and perfection and amazing, and there will be no problems. And you should just transform your issues, right? So this creates this little like spiritual Disneyland scenario where if you're just master enough, then you'll be surrounded by love and light and everything will be great. You won't have any problems anymore. You won't have to do any of the hard stuff. That's what this kind of text suggests. And it's really icky when it's being done with like the combination of like the narcissism of like, you are a master, you are striving for perfection, and you should, and then that combination with the path of love and light. So now you've got this, and there's a lot of this going around. There's a lot of this going around also in kind of like the law of attraction arena, let's say. A lot of people who talk about the law of attraction talk about spirituality in this way, where it's like, if you are purified, if you are perfect enough, then you will attain wealth and you will attain wellness and you will attain all these things. And if you don't have those things, you just have a low vibration. Like there's this really creepy kind of hierarchy that actually goes all the way back to the Protestant work ethic, amongst other things. The Protestant work ethic was this idea that, and I would have to look up like what century it comes from, but it was this idea that some people were chosen by God, but we don't know who they are. But the ones who are chosen have an exemplary, successful life. So what does that do? Now everyone's trying to prove that they were chosen, so everybody works their ass off to like get all the success that will prove that they are chosen by God. That's kind of the reasoning there, right? And there's a similar reasoning with a lot of this law of attraction stuff where it's like, if you are successful, it's not because you have a trust fund, it's because you are of a high vibration. And it doesn't take into account like all the different places where people are coming from, like what you've had to overcome to be where you are today, like your journey from like someone's journey from a I don't know, a not very impressive reality to a also not very impressive reality to other people can be a massive journey of growth and learning and in terms of like raising vibration, like massive raising of vibration, right? But it doesn't look like the the super wealthy, shiny, successful, blah, 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 blah. And so it doesn't look to other people like you're one of the chosen ones, you know? But you may have actually made way more progress than somebody who looks like one of the chosen ones because they've got all the status and success and blah, blah, blah. But, you know, like some people who have a lot of status and success were just kind of born into it. They got it. And other people worked really hard to get to where they were. Like, you know. Anyway, the problem with this kind of thinking, and that's with this text of mastery and love and light, it's all about the end look. It's not even about the end state. It's all about like what you look like. And if you give off an impression of being some kind of master and being abundant and being all these things, and then if you look like that, then that means you have a high vibration. And it's just, it doesn't work like that at all. And all of that's very, very, it's very narcissistic because it's all about how does this make me look to other people, right? And if you're on a spiritual path and you're interested in spiritual growth, longing for perfection is messed up. And I've talked about perfection in other videos. It's never a popular topic. Like nobody, it feels like nobody wants me to talk about it in the way that I do, but I keep doing it anyway because I think it's important. There's a difference between striving to do a particular thing perfectly, like making the perfect cake, right? And yes, we can agree that, you know, there's different standards like that you might be striving for, but it is possible to do something really, really well to the point where other people would say, wow, that's perfect. That is possible to attain. You know, you can do certain things really well. But that's when it's about a very specific task or a very specific project or something that you're creating. But if you're striving for like perfection of being, like you want to be perfect, that's narcissism. Because it's an illusion. It doesn't exist. And if you want to look, and all you can really do if you're striving for that is try to look perfect to other people, and hide all the stuff in the closet, you know, hide all the skeletons in the closet, and then be like, oh, I'm perfect. And this is why, you know, this is such a huge red flag for me, this longing for perfection, putting that in a spiritual message like this. It's like, it's not about perfection. And if you're on a path of love and a path of light, you will start to see that there are lots of situations that look kind of chaotic and messed up in some ways, but you start to see the love and the light in those situations, right? That's the path of love and light. You start to recognize the love and the light in places where it may not be obvious. It doesn't mean that you have a perfectly stylized situation happening. You know, it's like everybody's laughing and everybody looks pretty. So I think we have a perfect situation here. It's like, no. And also like, okay, so the second part of this is like transform your issues and look for the master within you. This sounds maybe positive and upbeat, but really it also means you're not allowed to have issues, right? So if you read this from the perspective of like the narcissistic parent speaking to the child, the narcissistic parent is saying, I want you to look shiny all the time to make me look good. And I want you to be nice because that's a part of love. That's the path of love. Be nice to me always, no matter what I do. And if you have a problem, you should just transform it. We don't want to deal with that. We don't want to listen to your issues. You're not supposed to have issues. You're supposed to be a master, transform your darn issues, and get them out of the way so nobody has to deal with them. This is kind of the voice behind that transform your issues. And then look for the master within you. Like, again, it's kind of arrogance, right? Like, yes, you have an intuitive voice that is good to learn to listen to that and understand what that voice is telling you, but it doesn't mean that you have a master inside. Again, the master just suggests, and maybe this is due to all the marketing bullshit, right? There are so many master classes. There are so many people out there who have courses who promise you that at the end of it, you will be a master. You will master this issue. It sells really well because it suggests an end state, a completion, I'm finally done with it because I'm a master. Now I don't have to deal with that problem anymore. But that's not how any kind of spiritual growth works. There's always a next step. There's always a next evolution. There's always a next kind of learning of, now I'm here and now I need to learn about that. There is always a next. And so you never reach that point where you're just like, and now it is I, the master. You know, like that is the creepy evil guy in the movie, right? It's like, I have a master within and I know everything. It's like, that is messed up. So it's, you know, like, yes, looking inside is good, and, you know, path of light is good, and a path of love is good, and all of that. But what a lot of these messages do that are not so great is they borrow words and concepts that have a lot of positive power behind them, and they string them all together in one long message. So if you just read over it quickly, maybe it sounds good, right? It sounds good when someone says, don't let anyone divert you from your path of light and from the path of love. What does that actually mean? The path of light and the path of love is very positive. It's very inspiring. It's also very vague. Very vague. So how do you not let anyone divert you from the path of light and love? And what does that actually look like? Like, how does this work? And, you know, encouraging you to long for perfection, which is a recipe for misery, right? Like, I have a course in the Happy Sensitive Library. I created this course years ago. I don't teach it live anymore, so I have the recordings and all the self-study materials in the library now for anyone who wants this. But this is one of the first kind of group course topics that I tackled with highly sensitive people. This idea of perfection, right? Because it's very tricky, because on the one hand, we know it's not good to be a perfectionist in every way because it's messed up. But at the same time, there's a lot of judgment about this striving for perfection in some ways. And, you know, it can be very satisfying when something's really done well. And I don't believe that we should just put up with badly done whatevers. Whatever it is that you care about, it is worth doing it really well. But it's not worth exhausting yourself trying to do too many things well. So in that course, I kind of break down some strategies and some angles and questions to ask yourself to make sure that you honor that desire for perfectionism for some things in a healthy way, but you don't let it take over your life, and you don't let it exhaust yourself, and you don't let it make you work way too hard, right, to try to do the impossible. But that is still different. That is still different from the longing for perfection in this context of like the longing for like a perfect kumbaya, everything is wonderful kind of place in society. You know, we can argue about what is possible in the spiritual realms, but here in the human world, like that kind of wanting some kind of perfection is really leading nowhere. And it's like wanting a perfect life, wanting to be a perfect person, wanting to be it's really just a recipe for kind of totalitarianistic control, right? I want everything to look a certain way and I want everyone to behave a certain way, but there's still like a lot going on beneath the surface that everybody's supposed to hide. You know, this is narcissism, this is undemocratic, control-seeking types of organizations and governments. They want things to look perfect in their vision of what that is. And then they just want everyone to sweep everything else under the rug. And that's why this is such a problem. And again, like transform your issues and look for the master within. Like, what does that even mean? It just means like, we're not going to help you. Go away. You know, it's like, can you imagine going to some kind of government office for, you know, there's some issue that needs resolving, and you go and you say, this is the situation and I need, you know, and they say, well, we encourage you to we encourage your longing for perfection. Please transform your issues and look for the master within you. Bye-bye. Yeah. There you will find everything. Go away. I mean, that would be ridiculous, right? In that context. But because this is coming from supposedly spiritual source, it's like, oh, yes. Okay, I will just like look for the master within you. Thank you very much. And then the next paragraph is, the time of gurus is over. Wait, didn't you just say like we're all supposed to find the master within, but the time of gurus is over, so there are no gurus for other people, but now we're all gurus ourselves? Is that really better? You know, like I agree, the time of gurus as in people that you just have, actually, no, I don't fully agree. I think in a lot of situations, the idea of a guru as in someone who knows all this stuff and you just have to ask them and they know everything. I think in a lot of situations, it can be very disempowering because it kind of conditions people to say, well, I don't know, but he or she always knows everything and I have to defer to them all the time, right? So it can take you away from trusting yourself. At the same time, this alternative of you just have to look inside and you already know everything, so good luck. It can also contribute to a lot of arrogance. I mean, there are people who walk around who are like, I am amazing, I'm a master, I know everything, and I don't need anyone to tell me anything because I'm amazing. And that's just a huge amount of ego, right? So in this message, there's no balance between that. There's no balance between saying, hey, if you're stuck, if you're feeling lost, if you're confused, if you just need somebody just to give you a little pep talk, because we all need that sometimes, that's okay. And you can ask for help and you can, you don't have to know everything. It's all right. It's all right to learn, and you're on a learning journey, and there are other people who can teach you stuff, right? That's fine. And at the same time, it's also important to learn to listen to what you already know on the inside and not shove it all away just because you're a bit insecure about, well, it's just little old me. What do I know, right? So this message is suggesting that it creates kind of a balance, but in reality, it's just perpetuating the same kind of problem, just in a different way. Okay. You are asked to look at life itself as a master school, because everywhere the truth is looking at you, unredeemed as well as realized things are reflected in you. Your environment is a stage of learning, and your fellow human beings are the mirror images that matter now. Every person in every situation can now be your master and bring you closer to your mastery. I agree with most of that, as in, like, yes, there is this really interesting thing that happens on kind of an energy soul level where if you have something that you need to work on, it'll be in your face no matter where you go. You will somehow, feel attracted to, or other people will be attracted to you, or like you'll end up hanging out with or getting to know or meeting or ending up in situations where certain things happen and they happen again. And then maybe you move to a different place and it happens again. And it's just weird because you know that other people don't have that thing happening to them all the time. So why is it constantly happening to you? So there are a lot of situations in your life that mirror back something about yourself that is important to look at and explore. And if you just keep running, if you just keep trying to get away from it, it's going to follow you around. And like weird people and weird situations are going to come out of the woodwork to confront you with this thing. And it feels like there's no place to hide because they always find you. And it can be kind of creepy, to experience that. But at the same time, it's also just, this is somehow a thing that you need to learn about and you need to work on. And life is putting it front and center. So that is definitely true. And there's a mirroring going on. It's not necessarily a literal mirroring, right? Because sometimes people say, well, like people are just mirroring back to you a part of yourself. It's not always like a literal mirroring. If someone's being an asshole to you and it just really stands out, you're like, why are they being an asshole to me? And you're confused about it. It doesn't mean that you're secretly an asshole too and they're showing you this about yourself. That's too simplistic. Sometimes, maybe, but a lot of times it's just bringing something up for you that you otherwise would not have had to deal with. So, like people in situations can bring stuff from under the rug. We all have our own little rugs, like on the energy level. Like we just kind of like, that is the thing I don't want to deal with. Let's just sweep it. Where's the camera? Here, sweep it under there. And that's good. And then some weird person or situation comes along and just like seems to be able to peek under that carpet and just pulls the whole thing out. but you forgot it was even there. So it's all very confusing. So that can definitely happen. And those are situations that are worth working with. They can be a lot of work to deal with them, but you get a lot of spiritual growth from confronting and understanding and kind of dissecting those kinds of situations and really looking inside and seeing like, what is this bringing up for me? What is this really, really bringing up for me? So in that way, situations can be your master. And every person can be your master, but it doesn't mean that that person is necessarily wise and trying to teach you something. Little codependent alarm here, because if anyone who's in a very dysfunctional, unsafe, unhealthy relationship can start to feel like maybe there's a bigger purpose here. Maybe I'm being punished for a reason. Maybe this person punishing me sees something about me that I should work on. Maybe I need to work on myself. Maybe they are my master. It can kind of lead to that kind of thinking. And so that's, I'll link to another video on that, because I actually have a whole other video on that. Let me just make a quick note so I remember where it is in this video. Okay. So that's not what this is. It's not that other people are literally your master. They're like, hello, I am Jesus in disguise trying to help you out here. No. Like, people are just people doing what they were going to do anyway, but we can learn a lot from it. And that can bring you closer to, I wouldn't say mastery, but I would say getting more practice and being better trained at dealing with something. Because again, like, mastery suggests some kind of endpoint. There is no endpoint. There's always that next level of growth and learning. Yeah, so sometimes I ask people, sometimes I've had clients who have taken courses that were really just like, they took the course and then they found out along the way that the course was kind of messed up and there were a lot of power dynamics and a lot of weirdness. And then sometimes I ask them, like, what is it that initially got you interested in taking this course? And very often it's language like this: promising that you'll be a master, promising some kind of perfection, promising some kind of now you'll be forever done with ever having to deal with this issue again. Just making big perfectionistic kinds of promises that are just not real. Because it sells. Because we all have an ego that gets fed up with the grind and like the daily grind of the stuff we have to do, and that wishes for like some perfect state where none of this is a problem and we can all just somehow just magically feel like we're always in some kind of light and love situation. Doesn't work that way. So it's just something you'll have to learn to recognize. You have to learn to recognize sometimes you're feeling down and out and you're feeling really low, you're feeling kind of powerless, that these kinds of messages, okay, now I'm like pointing, where am I pointing? I'm trying to point towards a picture, but I'm not, it's, okay. This is really hard. Okay. Gosh. Cameras. So, and now I lost my train of thought. Yes, when you're feeling down and out, these kind of messages are going to come, they're like candy. They can be like candy, like, oh yes, I'm actually really a master on the inside. That feels really good, but it's not really helpful and it's not really healthy. You got to be really careful, and you got to be really careful with these messages that just string together a whole bunch of sounds good concepts, but when you really get down to it, like, the message itself is really, really vague. They're just alluding to all kinds of things. It's kind of like they're going around and pinging all these associations inside of you. So, if somebody says path of love, that's going to ping kind of a positive, feel-good association. So they go, path of love, ping, and you go like, oh, positive, healthy, happy association. And they go, path of light. You're like, oh, that feels good too. And then they're like, perfection. I'm like, yes, yes, yes. And then transform, and yes, yes, yes. Issues, yeah, we don't like those. Transform issues, yay, that feels good. So it's kind of this kind of manipulative in that sense, where it's like all these words that make you feel good, but when you break it down, like what is it actually saying? It's not such a great message. And also sometimes these messages are just full of air. It's like, what are they actually saying? They're not actually saying anything useful. They're just going around kind of like a social media influencer, just kind of, touting the concepts of the latest popular concepts and just kind of flaunting those without really adding anything to the conversation. Because it sounds good and everyone's like, yes, that's the thing. That's where we're at today. And that's very popular and, it's very hip or cool or whatever. But when you really break it down and try to understand, what did they just communicate? They just communicated associations, like brands almost, where if I'm wearing some kind of like furry hat from some kind of massive designer brand that is really, really cool and that is associated with cool things, then that doesn't actually say anything about me or my qualities. But like, you get that if you think that designer whatever person is also cool, you're like, ooh, she's got that designer hat from so-and-so. So bing, positive association, right? And so that also happens with words. Like some messages are just stringing together of all these positive associations, just like kind of the wardrobe. Ooh, look at these gloves, they're so pretty. Look at this hat, so pretty. Doing like the perfect smile, and then ta-da! And then you just almost like kind of like Miss World going on stage saying, yes, I want peace for the whole world. I want everyone to have the food they need. That's my wish for society. Everyone's like, yay. What did they actually say? Absolutely nothing useful. It's just all positive pinging associations. So yeah, that happens also in spiritual messages. You want to be really mindful of that. So if you have something that feels really fluffy and good, you're like, yeah, I like this bubbly bath kind of message. Also take a moment to kind of see like just pure factually and in terms of like actual content, what are they actually saying or telling me to do, or what's inside of this. And sometimes you don't need actual content. Sometimes you just need a little fluffy ping of like, oh, that feels nice, thank you. But you want to be careful like what gives you that fluffy ping, that fluffy kind of feel good vibe. Is the thing giving you that vibe, is it a healthy thing, or is it some kind of drug that's going to get you addicted? And this kind of stuff, like, yes, perfection, long for the perfect life, transform your issues, and you are a master. That can create a kind of unhealthy addiction where just being a regular person, learning stuff as you go along is no longer good enough. It's like, no, I need to be a master. I need to always be on the path of light, on the path of love. It's just like, it sounds really good, but it puts a lot of pressure on you. You can't just be a human and have a crappy day and be like, that's okay, I'm a human, I had a crappy day, no big deal. Like, no, it's like, no, I diverted from my path of light and from the path of love. Ooh, maybe I'm not a master. It creates a lot of stress. So don't do that. Okay. I think I'm going to leave it here for today. Thank you so much for listening. If you'd like to chat with me about spiritual stuff, about healing, about energy stuff, about intuition, about anything I talk about in my videos or on my website, set up a clarity call with me. I'll put the link below. And I also have a ton of articles on my website if you're just following me here on YouTube. So check out the website if you haven't done that, and I'll see you next time.